Okay, so welcome to the second half of the second session. Today we're going to be looking at the concept of asset accounting, and I think it's one of the most interesting modules. I think when I was doing my certification exam, it was one of the modules that I enjoyed, and I guess I think one of the modules I actually had, one of my best scores. So once you understand the structure, once you understand the build, then you're actually very fine, basically. So so I'm just going to start. Asset accounting, basically, in S4 HANA, there was I think there were changes in the way in the reporting and in the introduction of the parallel accounting, the different analyzing asset reports in different views, the bringing of the clearing accounts and all that. So there were some few changes within the SAP S4HANA system, especially for assets. And basically, asset accounting in SAP S4HANA just basically helps you provide detailed information about the transactions that involve fixed assets. So it's basically it helps you manage your fixed assets. So in organizations, they have assets, they have properties, they have plants, they have furniture, they have fittings. So asset accounting module just helps them better manage these assets in terms of their capitalization, their depreciation, their amortization, their evaluation, the reclassification, and all that. So you just make sure that the net book value of the asset at every point in time tells the real state of the asset, and it helps the business better manage the facilities. So basically, we have so let's have this scenario where your manager wants you to, manage assets, and at the end of the day, carry out depreciations for these assets, and so basically, just maybe you're joining a project and they want you to focus on the asset accounting path. What do you do? Like, what are the expectations from you? When you are in a project, for example, one of the requirements you have to gather with that of the assets of the business. So you will need to understand what asset classes are, how you have your asset registers, how they are arranged. So some of these things you might need to read them up because you need to understand the documentation processes that goes with fixed assets, right? Theoretically, before you probably appreciate it more when you come to SAP. All right. So basically, we're just going to go deep into, just as much as we can today. Just familiarize ourselves with the configuration and with the necessary step that goes with basically doing your configuration in fixed assets. As usual, we're not going to be going through T codes. We're just going to go through the menu part to understand the structure of the fixed asset. Of course, we're going to learn things about the chart of depreciations, depreciation areas, and the rest of them in detail now. So you go to SPRO, go to financial accounting, then you're going to see asset accounting. Then this is the structure, right? So these are all the configuration steps, most of which are already configured by standard, some of which you need to also work on as you go through your configuration. But it's good you understand the structure or the design of how SAP actually does its configuration, right? There's always a master data, there's always an information system, there are always transactions, they're just basically how SAP arranges the config side of the SAP S4HANA system. I think somebody is here. Have I? Okay. Okay. Now we're going to start with, of course, at the very top there you have the migration, which is new. So if you want to do data migration in SAP S/4HANA, although it's done through the Fiori, okay, yeah, part of it you can start the process here, and of course, migration also happens at the Fiori side, but we're not doing migration today. But this is just to show you you're supposed to prepare for your asset for migration, migrate chart of account, chart of depreciation, and other migration activities that happens. But that's not the focus for this class now. So for now, we're going to go to the so let's see what we can find here. Okay, so in the migration, you have the option activate asset accounting. So you can see this is a new feature which you cannot find, which you will not find in ECC. So first of all, the first step is to activate the the asset accounting module, and we'll check if it's activated. So of course it's in preparation. We can say 2. So if it's not active, it will show in preparation. So we need to make it 2, which shows that it's activated. So we need to change it to 2 and save. And that will make us, so transaction types have been transferred to enable us to run our transactions in SAP. So the first step is to activate the asset accounting module in S/4HANA. If you go to activate and you see 2 there, that means it's fine. You don't need to activate that anymore. So that's the first step. Now, the way SAP is structured, there's always an org structure. In any module, there's always the highest hierarchy, and you always have things that follow that structure, basically. So the organization, just as we have enterprise structure in the finance, this is also what we call an enterprise structure in asset accounting. So you go to the org structure, and the first thing in your structure you will find is the country, because depreciation asset accounting to a large extent is country specific, in the sense that every country has different policies on how they manage their assets. So the first thing you will see in the org structure is to check the country, to make sure your country is there in the org structure. So we're using the US, so we can actually check. So you can see that our country is available, and we can actually do that. So the structure starts with checking your country. So if I'm designing a structure, sorry guys, if I'm designing a structure, for example, for asset accounting, so the first thing will be check the country, and you will have one arrow that will just point basically here. And just says basically, sorry, then we'll see the next thing. This should be not so up. We got the next thing. The next thing we find here is check copy reference chart of depreciation, or what we call depreciation areas. So basically, what are depreciation areas? Because if you go for a typical interview and you say, yes, have you done asset accounting? Yes. You will most likely be asked things around the depreciation areas, the depreciation classes, what are they, and you should be able to explain them, from your understanding, not necessarily from, any other thing. Now, in the org structure of asset accounting, right, the chart of depreciation is the highest level of the hierarchy, which is created at client level. So while checking is just a process, I think I'll put it here. The highest level of the hierarchy is what we call the chart of depreciation, which we call the COD. So when you say chart of depreciation, what do you mean basically, right? So that's the understanding the concept is very, very important. That's why you have to go through the back to see the processes. Now, depreciation calculates. Now, basically, when you do depreciation, right, the system reduces the value of the asset based on the useful life, right? And what chart of depreciation does is that it gives you the different depreciation areas for which you can depreciate that asset. So inside the chart of depreciation, I think I have a chart that explains it. I'm going to check. Let me see. Okay, this is yeah. So this is something I did that gives you the configuration steps. Right. So you have here the chart of depreciation, and you have the depreciation areas basically. And inside the chart of depreciation, you basically have the depreciation areas, right? So what that means is that when you're doing depreciation for an asset, there is something that propels that depreciation. Now that is what we call the depreciation area. Depreciation areas provides you with the kinds of depreciations that will happen, or the nature of the depreciations that will happen, and that you will find in the chart of depreciation. The chart of the depreciation also enables you to basically manage the rules for the valuation of assets according to country and according to other parameters. So when you're doing asset valuation, it helps you to manage the different rules, like the valuation currency. What are the factors you consider when you're doing your valuation? So all those specific rules that you put in place before you run your valuation, that is actually managed in your chart of depreciation, right? So basically, um, um, all these are actually tied to your chart of accounts. At the end of the day, when these activities happen, they go to your chart of accounts. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. So when depreciation happens, the end of the day is that your chart of depreciation is actually tied to your chart of accounts, because when you run depreciations, that is where your GLs will actually receive the expense for those depreciations that have reduced the value of your assets. Right. So basically, the transaction code to actually run your chart of depreciation is ECO8, but we're in the menu part, so it's fine. So we can just copy reference. So SAP has provided standard chart of depreciations. We don't need to create ours from scratch. We can just copy a reference depreciation. So double click on that, go to copy, select the chart of depreciation you want to copy. So I'm going to most likely use that of the US, although US sometimes has a lot of issues. I like using Germany because I feel Germany, they have okay, this is TA01. I feel Germany has the best config, standard config. If you're using any company, yes.
Okay, it's not time SAP also developed a sample for Nigeria. We are a big this thing market for SAP.
Of course,
You're not a
SAP
you're,
is Mannheim, is Germany. So all
you're
this
not a
code you are seeing is German. It's translated to all this chart of depreciation. Now, if you put it, it's a German word.
Yeah, but you're not a big market for SAP actually.
I know, but at least, Kelechi, even
The
some
head,
international organizations operating from our country Nigeria, they are using SAP.
Yeah, true.
Well,
But if you realize those projects are just rollouts, right? The SAP was already probably existing in the head office somewhere, and they just did a rollout to
You're
Nigerian.
right.
Yeah, so those multinationals you're calling, I mean,
I guess it's NMPC, maybe they NMPC
yeah,
they are the one that really implemented
exactly,
SCM or something like
exactly,
that. Yeah.
exactly. These companies brought SAP to
Mm.
Nigeria. Others, they just extended the company code and they just did some rollout and people. But those companies that started from that don't have head office outside the country, but are running SAP. They are the real MVPs.
I think USA is one of the big markets of SAP.
Yeah,
US, Japan, South Korea,
of course. You call India too.
India also, and many
Yeah,
European countries. UK
yeah,
also.
yeah, true. UK too. So basically, yeah, thanks. So we're just going to copy this from the US and hope that we have. So our chart of depreciation we're going to use, let's say, IBCA or chart of IBCD. Please, somebody should write that down for me. Chart of depreciation is IBCD. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to copy. Do you really want to transport number ranges? Yes. And I'm going to say okay. So I've successfully copied the chart of depreciation from a standard called OUS to my own chart of depreciation I just created. So that has actually given us the next phase. Now the next activity we have just under the chart of depreciation is what we call the depreciation areas. So just under the structure here, we have the I need to do this. I'll just reference you guys to this. So just after the chart of depreciation here, we have the depreciation areas. You can see the transaction codes, by the side, basically. Okay, so we're going to go. So basically, what are depreciation areas, right? Now, depreciation areas define your own. They just represent specific types of valuation. So let's say, for example, depreciation areas is just how the system is going to depreciate your assets. What are the how do you how do you when you're doing valuations for your assets, when you're trying to find out what the state of the asset is now before depreciation, the depreciation areas are just those areas that gives you that they help you do the valuation of your asset. They also support in depreciation because inside depreciation areas you have things like the depreciation keys, and other objects within the depreciation areas. Right. So the depreciation areas are basically we're going to define them, and also we will also see that the depreciation areas are also assigned to the accounting principles. When we call accounting principles, we mean things like GAAP and IFRS. Those accounting principles help in reporting. So one of the requirements of a modern accounting system is that it must be compliant with international best practices and international standards. Basically with finance, right? So accounting principles and parallel accounting just helps to make sure that the system can report in parallel currencies and also using different accounting principles, like the general accepted accounting principles in the US, the IFRS that originated from Europe, especially from the UK, and other. Germany also has their own generally accepted accounting principles. So we're just going to copy um, Okay, so we have done that for the depreciation area. So here we're just going to copy or delete depreciation areas. So this is our chart of depreciation. So of course, it's there. So we click on OK. So for the US, these are the available chart of depreciations. These are the available depreciation areas. Now, what this means is that these depreciation areas, they will determine how you're going to depreciate your assets and the accounting principles that are going to be used when depreciating assets. A minute, guys. Okay, so we have to, the difference between S4 and ECC is that in S4, you have to tell the system that for these depreciation areas, which are the different depreciation, how the system is going to do your various depreciations, which accounting principle will it follow in terms of when it's reporting for when you do depreciation and it wants to know which of the principles you use, whether it's GAAP or IFRS, because these standards have the way you do depreciation. So for example, if you read some standards about recognition of assets, depreciations. These standards define how you should treat transactions, within the finance and within the finance space. So that's why we're assigning these principles here to be able to align with best international practices and make sure that our asset accounting and the configuration is in compliance with standards that are recognized all over the world. Right. So basically, we're just going to provide the accounting, and when you provide accounting principles, basically they determine, like I said, how you're going to do your depreciation and the principles you're going to follow in. So we have the GAAP, and you can see that GAAP is our leading ledger. You don't forget that when we were defining currencies, so let me open this. When were defining currencies, we specified the accounting principles we're going to be using. So let me just run through that so that we can remind us what we did. So remember, we defined the different ledgers that we're going to be using, and we also assigned them to the company codes. So let's check this. So we also assign, for example, this is the leading ledger. And if you go, for example, to our company code, IBTC, you're going to see the ledger, the principle we're using. So the leading ledger for our company code IBTC, the accounting principle we're using is GAAP, because of course, US as a country uses GAAP for its own accounting principles. Right. So that is why when we're doing the chart of depreciation, we also need to make sure that it's in compliance with what our leading ledgers. So if we put leading ledger here, for example, then it's going to be using GAAP to do the accounting principles. So these are, of course, we can also delete some depreciation areas here we think that are not necessary. We can delete state modified ARS insurance, but because some of these configurations are standards, I just like to leave them. In terms of using, I would not actually use them. So I'm going to select the leading ledger here. I think these are all standard processes, and they all flow with finance. I think it's in consolidation we might want to see another accounting principle. So let's see. Yeah, no, why am I selecting OL here? Sorry. So gap. So now, book depreciation is the highest, is the most important in terms of depreciation areas for our assets, because book depreciation actually is the normal depreciation that carries. It's the usual, is I think is the most popular and is the normal. Every other depreciation here is specific to specific areas, like federal tax. There are some assets that you buy, and there are some certain laws that control how you depreciate them. So, and of course, consolidated would mean that you are consolidating different asset depreciation areas. So, but book depreciation is what is general, and most of these other personal ones of this specific depreciation copy their functions from the book depreciation. So that's why we are assigning the same accounting principles to them. In consolidated, because we are going to be looking at the group consolidation, if we're consolidating balance sheets for the group, we might want to use IFRS and see how that works. And so book depreciation for group currency, we'll still use gap, and gap. Click on enter. So corporate earnings settings for accounting principle gap. Okay, I think my mistake. So it's all good. And like I said, the basis is that the book depreciation will depreciate assets using the will manage assets using the principles of gap. So if you want to know basically, so you can just a tip, you can just Google how. So this is just a tip for learning how does gap how does gap manage fixed asset depreciation. So you see now that in gap you have the four depreciation methods: straight line, declining. So what this is telling us is that everything that gap represents in terms of depreciation is what will apply in the principles here, right? So that's the idea. The idea is that whatever that principle is saying will apply to what we are doing. And when we go out and meet external bodies and they ask us, what principle are you using for your depreciation? You can say, okay, we're using gap or using FIRS. So I'm going to click on save. Okay, so it's telling me IBCD specify an area for accounting that posts acquisition and production cost. Okay, so this post to real time. I think that let's see. One of this should be this. Should post this post in real time does not post. Let's say this post depreciation only. Okay, let me see. So I'm just going to not this FRS, sorry. Just going to double click on it. Try and change that the general posting to the GL. Go and save. Okay, all assigned ledger groups must contain the leading ledger. Okay, so let's go back to this. Okay. Okay, so this is carrying non-leading ledger. So just a second, let me check this. This is non-leading ledger. Okay. This is group. This will also pick this. Let me see. This is the leading ledger. Okay, just a second. This has to post. Just let me see this. Specify an area for account manager that post APC. Okay, IFRS. Okay, so I would specify this post. Specify this. This should post depreciation only. Okay, let me see this. Outside language must contain ledger. This is fine. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm trying to figure this out. Post distribution only. Okay, so let me go back. I need to define this. Okay, this is fine. Let me see if I can also define this. Let me see this. Okay, let me go back. Okay, so I want this to control this. Okay. Okay, so let me check why this is telling me this. Each ledger group must contain a leading ledger. Okay, let's see how to fix this now. So provide a leading ledger for this. Okay, this is not assigned. Let me check this. This will not work because this will have to pick. Yeah. Okay. I will have to check this. You cannot transfer values. So this is the FRS. I will have to check and define this. Basically, do not post. Okay. Let me check something very, very quick. Let me check something very, very quick. Okay, this would be IB. Okay, FRS. Okay, let's contain the ledger group. Let's check the ledger groups. Okay, I'm gonna just check this and get back to us. No, check the ledger group. IB is here, OL is here. Check the account assignment as well, prepared. Okay, it's there. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I think this is fine. Okay, so leading ledger. Okay, sorry guys, I need to verify this. If we can't do this now, we will just have to, I'll have to check this much later. Okay, this is the view, it's fine. You have a leading ledger, you are assigned to an account group, okay, parallel accounting. Let's do this. Okay, I'm gonna see. Okay, I think I will leave this. This should post in real time. Let me see if this can post in real time. No, there's the leading ledger. Post in real time. Okay. 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 So basically, what I observed is that number one, I selected parallel accounting here. This would represent that. Okay, I think I can update this now. Okay. Now, when you select parallel accounting here, it means that this leading ledger would be using, will use more than one accounting principle, but we have already assigned gap to it. So I just have to remove it, and let's maintain gap. I would also need to go to, okay, so that was the first thing I did. And secondly, I also observed that consolidated balance sheet in local currency is using IFRS, and this activity has to post in real time because it's like your book depreciation. So what this means is that when you run as you're doing your normal depreciation, the accounting principles would be applying, and consolidated balance sheet in local currency is like it's an activity that also happens real time, because as you are doing your depreciation, the difference here is that the system is able to consolidate those company codes in terms of the various accounting principles you have selected. So consolidation activity in the balance sheet should happen real time, just as you're depreciating your assets locally. So the way QuickBooks is designed, there is this, of course, um, if you are doing if you have group accounting and you are running depreciation at the group level, there should be automatic consolidation of those depreciations from the individual company codes to the group. So consolidation of balance sheet in local currency, book depreciation in local currency must happen on real-time basis, because the currency we have selected, we have actually looked at the currency configuration. If you come here, you're going to see the different currency type, which is the company code currency, which is the currency configuration we're doing, which is the local currency we have to be a real-time posting, in the sense that consolidation and normal postings in company code are real-time transactions, so they have to happen on a real-time basis. As we go on, we're going to certify, we're going to look at other areas that this will apply, and we'll take it from there. So we have been able to copy the reference and sorted out the issue with the depreciation. And we have been able, please check our previous videos for the concept of ledgers, because um, um, ledgers, the leading ledger, which is used for reporting, when reporting, this ledger will have to use a particular principle. It could be GAAP, it could be IFRS to do its reporting. And in S4HANA, you must have a non-leading ledger. The non-leading ledger will also report using another accounting principle. So in company code, we have two accounting principles. The GAAP is using the leading ledger, while the non-leading ledger is using IFRS. That's why you saw that for consolidation in the group. So the idea is that GAAP can be a company code in the US, but the group, the head office is sitting somewhere in Europe, and that where it's sitting, the consolidation happens there, but when the consolidation happens, it uses IFRS. So the essence of accounting principle is that you can have company codes in different countries that use different accounting principles. But when you're consolidating on a real-time basis, it is the accounting principle at the headquarters that the system is going to use to do the reporting according to that accounting principle. Because when the HU submits consolidated accounts to their financial bodies or to regulators, they are going to be using the accounting principle of that country. For example, if we have a branch in the US and the head, for example, Dangote has the HQ in Nigeria. Nigeria uses IFRS as a standard. We now opened a new office at US, and US is using GAAP. So the truth is that US will continue using GAAP to do its depreciation, but when there is a consolidation between the two company codes, because we use IFRS in Nigeria, that consolidation has to happen real time, and it has to happen with IFRS, which is the company code, which is the accounting principle we use in Nigeria. So that's just basically explaining how the depreciation works with the accounting principles and the ledger principles. Right. So basically, that is some of the things we have to do. The next activity here is to assign chart of depreciation to company code. So when we assign, we're going to confirm if our company code setting in terms of currency and our chart of depreciation, if they agree and they jive, and then we're going to take it from there. Oh, sorry. Our chart of depreciation is what? Are we there? IBCD. So yeah, so transfer of depreciation is not allowed in area 30 of chart of depreciation. So let's check. We're going to do something. We're going to check this. No. So what I will do is, because this is going to actually come in the, so basically I'm just supposed to check the general valuation, check the depreciation areas there, and basically specify the transfer of APC values. This is the 30 is talking about, right? So consolidation, remember, is using, this consolidation is referring to, supposed to refer to 00, not 01. So let me just change it and see how that works. So let me change it, because we have changed the setting that we copied. I will explain this as we come to this session, but I need to save that. Okay, this will be okay. It should be 01, and I will use that for okay, so I'll use that at 30, pick values from 30. Let's pick this, and okay, so it's good. Okay, so let me just check this. Oh, I see. You cannot transfer values from the R30 in Chatterbox because it posts in real time. Okay, so I will check this because this is coming from here. So because of the want of time, I am going to check this, and we're going to see how. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So this is where the issue is coming from, because 30 is posting real time. Okay, so guys, what we're going to do, I'm going to look at this. I don't want to take much of the time, so I'm going to just look at this, and in our next session, I'm going to better explain this part. Why? Because when it comes to, I think this is also one of the very important issues with S4HANA. If it's ECC, I would have most likely just deleted all this stuff and just created and moved on. But here you have to make sure that the company code, the accounting principles, they are all syncing, and it's something that even in real life you have to be careful about, so that the reporting would actually happen as it's supposed to. This is posting real time, and this guy is copying from this guy, so somehow this should also be posting, at some point. So what I will do is that we'll end the class here. It's already very late. In our next session, which will most likely be because work has started, so we might continue to do our weekends only for now. If there's any change to that, let us know. We're going to, I'm going to actually um, go through this and, kind of give us better explanations, to how this really speaks, how your depreciation, chart of depreciation really fits into your company code. And the beauty of this is that if you copy, when you copy, it is not automatic because you have to also always um, go back to your depreciation and make sure that the configurations in the company code side jives with your chart of depreciation. So we're going to, yes, okay, Chuko.
Okay, sorry, I have not talking. Mine is just a suggestion, right?
Okay,
Or
okay,
a comment. Asset
okay,
accounting most times is usually complicated, especially on S4 HANA. Like I've encountered this error so many times. But one thing
yeah,
I've realized is that whenever I get to chart of depreciation, I don't
yeah,
copy. I don't copy
oh,
from any reference company. I create my afresh. And I usually don't have that error message. But by the time you copy from another company, because sometimes there could be an embedded configurations that were done for that particular company that you're copying from.
yeah,
And if yours doesn't align with the reference company, you usually have this issue. So what I usually do is to create my own chart of depreciation afresh without making any reference to any company. And I don't usually have this issue. It's just a suggestion. Maybe we can also look at it that way too.
okay, okay, okay,
Thank you.
okay. It's fine, right? And the the thing with SAP is that um what you have said is very fine. I just fear that as you go along, when you don't copy also, there are settings that you will not, that might also give you might also give you issues in the future.
You are right.
Yes, because when SAP gives you a standard, um it means that this thing here, right, it's not actually a problem. It's just that you have to understand how this configuration fits into your company code. It's a very, but at any time you're copying, the configurations are always different. So you can't say this is it. The other way to do that is just to delete all these ones I feel are not necessary and move on. But um, when you go to a live project, you might have to define different depreciation areas. You might actually use different depreciation areas. So you need to learn now how does, because I can leave only one, simple and just run. But if a company has more than one, would want to do depreciations at different levels using different principles, so I think it's good you go through that stress of, because what I can do now is I'll try